Buffalo Brother George, how are you today?
John, my brother, how you doing?
Good. Having a good weekend. It's been 2 weeks since the Bills season ended.
And that makes me remember we really didn't make a video after that, and
No, we
so
couldn't. It
we
was too
should
hard.
we should address the elephant in the room, and tell you what we really felt about it and felt about the Bills. In my take, I thought that the Bills did a great job. They fought back with a new offensive coordinator. They won five in a row, got to the playoffs, won the wild card game, and had so many injuries coming out of that Pittsburgh wild card game that I didn't think they could beat Kansas City with all those injuries. And even with that, the Bills put up a heck of a fight. And so I was pretty pleased by the way that they ended the season. I give them a lot of credit. And so thank you, Bills. Great season. We'll look forward to next year. We'll fix some problems. As they say, as the coach says, we'll watch the film. We'll learn from it. All right, John, what do you think?
I think this was a year when the AFC Championship game, the having the best record, was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
They had every opportunity, and they really threw it away.
Yeah, they did.
Um, I don't want to hear about injuries. Every team has a 53-man roster and a practice squad. You got to figure it out. That's your job. That's the team's job. Um, Games that look, they lost a game because they had too many men on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anybody caring about that.
Not this game. You're talking about
No,
the best game.
this season. We
This,
talked about
mm-hmm.
the season. That's the game because they had too many men on the field.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a game because Russell Wilson was too much for him to handle.
And
Russell
all he did
Wilson,
was little dinky passes to two-yard passes. Yeah.
whatever. They were 6-6 at one point, which is wildly unacceptable for a team
Mm-hmm.
with the talent that they had that wasn't injured.
Okay.
So I don't
All right. So
I don't see any accountability there.
all right, a little harder take, no problem. And but the year's behind us now.
Another year is behind, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what we're here to talk about today is I went through the team position by position,
Okay.
and I identified what I call priorities.
Okay.
And then I labeled them low priority, medium priority, and high priority.
Okay. Exciting.
And when I say priority, that does not mean they have to draft someone or get a free agent.
Okay.
It could mean they have to do one of those things, but what it really means is they have to make a decision what they're going to do about it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So if you like, I'm ready. I've got notes.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready to go.
And how about we start on the offensive side of the ball?
Okay. And are we doing like high priority first or high
No,
low, or
we're just going to go through by position.
Oh, okay.
And then at the end, I've got a recap of all the high, all the medium, and all.
All right. Offense first. Sounds good.
All right. So I started at quarterback.
Okay.
Great place to start.
Sure.
I got Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He's young. He's healthy. I don't see him as a priority. So we got to do anything about him.
Okay. Sure.
Backup. Our backup is what the heck, Allen.
Right.
You can't even remember his name.
Right. Kyle Allen. Right.
Kyle Allen. And quite frankly, if Josh Allen goes down, I think the season's over with this guy as a backup.
Sure. Sure.
So I listed that as a priority, that they have to make a decision next year. Are they going to live with Kyle Allen, or do they have to get a better backup? And in my opinion, that's a priority. I listed it as a low priority because, in general, Josh Allen has stayed healthy and he's been able to make every game and perform. But I do see it as a priority. I think they have to make a decision about a backup quarterback.
And I apologize. I missed it. Was that then a low priority or a medium?
I made it a low priority.
Okay.
I think it's something they have to address. Now they may say, "Listen, we're fine the way we are," but I think they have to talk about
Okay,
it because if Josh Allen goes down, I think they're in big trouble.
okay, okay. So may I just interject something?
Yeah.
And this isn't my, it's me reading the Bills and
Hmm.
what they actually have done.
Yeah.
They started the year with Matt Barkley
Hmm.
on the practice squad.
Right.
So they had three quarterbacks in house. When Barkley got pulled, they didn't even go out and get somebody else.
No, they didn't.
And I think they have gotten very comfortable with Allen that plays. He plays hurt, he plays. He plays hurt, he doesn't get hurt, he plays. I think they've gotten very comfortable with that. Now, I don't know how much it costs to go out and get a quality backup. I don't know how many guys would be willing to come here as a backup. But that could be an issue, not having a
Cleveland went out and found a guy off the couch,
yeah.
Joe Flacco.
So
So maybe it's not. Maybe you might say it's not a priority, and that's okay.
yeah, no, I'm not even one way or the other. I'm saying they don't feel backup quarterback is a very high priority. I feel
All right.
looking at their actions, I don't feel like they feel backup.
All right. Yeah, and these
I'm
are
not criticizing you at
no,
all.
no.
Just it looks like they don't.
That's great. These are my opinions, my priorities, and you're probably right. They may see it, like I say, they may see it. There's no issue here. To me, it's an issue because I'm looking at it as like Josh is a wild man, and he's getting older. He's still young, but he's getting older. He's had shoulder injuries, he's had finger issues, he's had wrist issues, and sometimes I think he's got head issues, but that's a whole different thing. But I just think they need to have a better backup. But that's just my opinion. And again, it's a low priority.
Look, you mentioned he's young.
Mm-hmm.
He's young in that he's in the prime of his life. But there's every reason to think his career's half over.
Mm-hmm.
12 years is a long time.
Yes, right.
He's going to be in the seventh year.
Yep.
Now, he may be able to go longer than that, but you have to wonder what the drop off will be after 12 years. You won't be the same. So we'll see, but there's every reason to think of this as half his career is over. Go ahead. What else
Right. The next position I got is running back.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you the truth, I have no priority issues on this in this running back group. We've got a number one running back in James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
He's young, he's healthy, he's really contributing. He's contributing running the ball and catching the ball. He's scoring touchdowns. And his backup, maybe not a backup, but let's say the second punch, is Ty Johnson.
Right.
He's healthy and he does a pretty good job. And I don't see where they have an issue that they have to go out and find a running back for the number one or number two position. Now, they may go out and get somebody to replace like a Latavius Murray. Or, but yes, I think that between these two guys, they got their first and second running backs in place. And so I don't see a priority that they have to manage on this in this position.
Yeah, I guess I would call it a low priority in that neither of those guys have any power.
Mm-hmm.
So you could either make the decision you're always going to use Josh Allen whenever you got to get 2 yards, if you're going to run
Right.
for two, because they might pass, right? Or you got to bring somebody in that could be that power.
Okay.
So that would be a low priority, but I do think moving on from Murray makes a lot of sense. I don't think he lasted the whole year.
Okay, I can see that. You feel like the power back is they have to move on from.
Yeah.
And there's a room for that. It's a low priority and they've got to take it.
I'm sure they'll get somebody. I'm sure they'll probably have a couple of running backs on camp.
I looked at it as the top two running backs where I didn't see a priority. But when you're talking about that third running back, I definitely I would agree with you there. All right. So moving on from running backs, I got wide receivers.
Okay.
Now you've got Diggs. And quite frankly, I find him questionable. That second half of the season was not productive. I haven't heard about any major injuries that he's suffering.
Nope.
And you've got Gabe Davis, who's without a contract. and that there itself as a replacement. You got Shakir, who's in his third year, so he had his third year success, and it may be time to even expand his role. You've got Shearfield. To me, that kid was a waste of time. He did okay in that Pittsburgh playoff game, but I think somebody else could have did just as fine. He had too many drop passes, or he couldn't get open. I don't see him sticking on this team. I don't see how the Bills are going to keep him. You've got Hardy. They used him more as a special teams guy. Yeah, they could let him go if they got another special teams guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got Andy Isabella. He's a practice squad guy, and I don't see any issue with him. He could be on the practice squad again.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got Shorter. Who knows? They drafted this kid Shorter in the last year, and he was injured almost the entire year. We have absolutely no idea anything about him. Mm-hmm. So I actually see where there is a high priority with the loss of our supposed number 2 receiver in Diggs. They need to replace him last year. They've got to replace him now. He has no contract.
Right, right.
And
you know what might be good word for him? Not the number 2 as much as he was a starter. They lost a lot of snaps. If there's 60 offensive snaps a game, he was out there for 50 of them or more.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of snaps that they're going to have to replace somehow.
Well, I've got him as a high priority. They've got to have that position filled. And between Sherfield and the questionability on how Diggs played in the second half, to me, that's a medium priority. They've got to address it.
Oh, so the wide receiver room has a high and a medium.
And a medium and a low. Because in that wide receiver room is your kickoff / punt returner in Hardy. So they've got to figure out who is going to be their kick returner. Are they going to go back to Shakir? They didn't do it because they said he had to concentrate more on the wide receiving. So who's going to do it? I think it's a low priority, but they have to address it.
Will Nyheim Hines be? He's under contract.
He's still on, right? Will he be back to do it?
Yeah.
Is he so mad at the Bills he doesn't want to play? Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But Davis is a high priority, and then another wide receiver to me would be a medium priority.
Okay.
Because we just don't know. And that could be it could be addressed with Diggs saying, okay, he had some problem, and this year he's going to be fine. And okay, fine, great. But they tried to use Sherfield, and that was a waste of time. And if you're not confident in Diggs anymore, then you need another guy to spell it.
Yeah.
So that's where I see a high priority, a medium priority, and the low priority, which is really more of a special teams issue, but I have it under the wide receiver because that's who we were using.
Okay. I would I don't disagree with you at all. I think the thing about Diggs, the second half of the year when his production dropped off was also under the interim head offensive coordinator. But that's another issue. So yeah, he may have had. We saw him on the ground a couple of times after some tackles, which led us to wonder if maybe he had a core type injury that he was dealing with.
Yes.
But in every game he made catches. So I would actually think that whether you're replacing him or finding an offensive coordinator that can utilize him properly, either way, that's you need help there. You need help on the other side because you're missing a lot of snaps. And I think I hesitate to say that Shakir can do any more than what he did this year. I saw increased production and improved play out of him. But I don't know that I feel that what I saw leads me to believe he could do more. That I think that might have been his career. It might be his highlight of his career last year. So I think they need more talent in that wide receiver room, and it would be great if they had a guy, a big fellow who could run really fast and run really routes and had great hands.
Mhm.
That's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
Evans, Mike Evans. That's good. Just bring him up, or the next Evans.
Yeah, I mean, for
Just do
me,
that.
Diggs, the answer on this medium priority might be Diggs had a core issue or something else. They weren't reporting it, so we don't know.
Well, they wouldn't. Yeah.
But if he was, and the Bills come out and well, everything's fine now this year, and they've addressed it. Okay, he's going to be fine. They've looked at it. He's going to be fine. Okay, good. They've addressed it that way. If they're not confident in that, they have to address what's going on in that number one wide receiver spot.
Yeah. We don't know.
So I
We don't
call
know.
it a medium because we don't know.
Yeah.
But definitely with your tight end being the number two receiver in catches and targets, that shows that we definitely have an issue at the number two receiver spot.
Yeah.
So that's a high priority for me.
That is exactly what we said going into the
Mhm.
season, and nothing changed throughout the season. So, and it was exactly our analysis after last season.
Mhm.
So, I won't even say number two receiver because if you want to, like, when you say number two receiver, I tend to think of not the guy like Diggs is that possession receiver who
Diggs
runs
is
great
the
routes.
guy. Yeah.
But the
This is
number
a guy
two,
is
we tend to think of a guy that is explosive. He
he gets
may
stretched the
he
field.
may only have 3 catches, but he'll have 89 yards.
Mhm.
Somebody who is always out there deep. He may get one deep catch. He may have a pass interference call.
James Lofton for
You
the
know,
92 Bills.
James Lofton, Alvin Harper, like
Mhm.
yeah. So that is not Gabe Davis's game. In that he didn't really have the skill set for that, but they really did use him as a blocker. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Having wide receivers that can help you block both on the line and downfield is fantastic. You definitely need that. It was, but so they didn't kind of use a traditional number two. So instead of calling it number two, I was like, look, well, they need a starter, and they also need a way to stretch the field. Hardy's got speed. McKenzie had speed. They didn't use either of them in that role. So I don't know if that's an issue with the scheme, if it's an issue with the quality of the player, the skill sets of the players. But they could really use that help.
All right, my next position is tight end. Now, I have absolutely no priority listed under tight end. Kincaid coming off a really good rookie season. So he's young, he's catching, um, he's doing a great job. Knox is healthy again. And Morris, their third tight end, healthy. I have no issues at tight end.
Okay, yeah, I don't either. The only thing I would point out is like for me, like we were talking about Shakir, and I was like, I don't know if we've seen the best of Shakir. And what I would say is, like, I feel differently about Kincaid, where I feel like he did what he did, but we also saw issues where he could get better.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we were impressed by what he could do. We
Mm-hmm.
saw some great hands out of him at times. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think he could continue to put up the same kind of numbers, maybe more, maybe better numbers, or whatever. But I have no. I think that he is somebody who will just get better. So yeah, I don't have any issues with
Right.
the tight end spot.
Now on the offensive line, we've got the tackles. Dawkins is healthy. He's playing well.
Mhm.
Brown is healthy. And quite frankly, I think he's playing a little better.
Okay.
But then we got this guy, Doyle, Tommy Doyle.
Okay.
He's been injured for 2 years.
Okay.
We don't know anything about it. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a medium priority. They've got to have, you really have to improve your backup at tackle.
Okay.
A guy that can play either side and maybe even challenge a guy like Spencer Brown for the starting position.
Okay.
And so I see definitely a medium priority at tackle.
Yeah, I don't know who like they call it the swing tackle, that guy
Mhm.
who goes like 2 years ago, that was Quisenberry. and that did not work out well for them.
Mm-mm.
Whenever they needed him, he really struggled.
Swinging door.
So I thought their swing tackle was Edwards and not Doyle, but whoever it is, they probably do need to find somebody there. Um, but it's a backup position, and if it's a backup role, it's important. But it's a backup role. This year, they were very lucky; they didn't miss a lot of time. The offensive lineman didn't miss that much time.
Yeah.
So, but that's not going to be like that every year. So, having unlike your backup quarterback position, you would really expect to use your backup tackle position, and they really need to make sure they. We saw that guy, Affetti.
Confetti. Okay.
They never played him, and then at the end of the year, they caught him
Fine.
before the last game. So I don't really know what their thought process was there, who the actual backup tackle was, if they had two, one for each. I don't really know what their thought was there, but that's something that probably has to be solved.
Well, I'm calling it
Or
a
something.
medium priority and not
Okay.
a high priority because we've got tackles on both sides and they're both playing.
Mhm.
And one's playing great and one's playing good.
Okay.
And I really think there's a medium priority to get the third guy in there that really is good enough to challenge for a starting position. Push a guy like Brown. You're going to lose your job. That's what I see. I see that they really need a good
Right.
quality, not just a backup. I want a guy that potentially could be the starter.
Are we just talking offensive tackles right now?
That's right.
Or
Just on the offense.
Yeah. I think they will think of this as a low or no priority, but Brown let them down quite a bit. There was a number of times this year where the right side of the offensive line let them down. Um, so I would like to see what you just said, that bring somebody in who would at least improve the floor, and that the backup will get a little better, but then also would maybe compete to take that spot from him if he has another year like he did beginning of the season or even last season.
And then
Browning.
at the center position,
Mhm.
I definitely have an issue priority there. I have a medium priority. Morris is at a point where they could drop him from this team and save a ton of money on the cap. And they've got Ryan Bates as the relegated as the new center. He's been training for this. So if that happens and they move Morris out, and you got to be honest, we saw him get pushed around a lot this season. And I think he's like 34 years old, so he's not a youngster. And if they move Bates into that and they let go of Morris, yeah, then they need a backup. They need somebody that they could count on to be a center. And I find that as a medium priority. So if they get rid of Morris, they got to find themselves a guy that they feel confident can handle the center position.
Yeah, like listen, it ain't an accident that Bates hasn't replaced Morris as a center. If they thought he was better, they'd have him in there, and they would have talked to Morris about a new deal where he makes less, or he would just let him go. They haven't done that because I presume they don't feel Bates is really the guy. But he's the guy that you have and you hope you don't use. Okay. They got the guy he's very inexpensive. I shouldn't say that. He had a contract. He went out and got a contract with Chicago when he was a free agent, but they had the ability to match that. So he wasn't an unrestricted free agent. He went out and got a contract with Chicago, and they chose to go ahead and honor that, pay him that money. So he stayed with the team. So they like him, but they don't want him. They haven't replaced Morris with him, and I think the reason for that is they feel Morris is better. So we'll see how that goes. But interior is a thing. Well, I think, go ahead, whenever you're ready.
I was going to say, I'm just going to do a quick recap on the offense.
Okay.
So we found, at least for me, I felt there was a high priority for that number 2 receiver, or the receiver that you count as the one that can stretch the field and can make big plays. And I found there to be medium priority in a second receiver because we don't know about the injury on Diggs, and Sherfield isn't the guy. So we need another receiver there. And a medium, I found a medium priority for tackle.
Okay.
Brown and Dawkins are both playing well. They played healthy all year, but who's to say they're going to play healthy again for another year? They need another guy in there.
They need a backup. They got to put
Mhm.
the floor, right?
A medium, priority at center. If they move on from Morris, then who's going to back up Bates? It could be a case where they keep Morris and Bates is the new starting center and Morris is the backup. I don't know, but they have to address it. I find it as
Yeah,
a
I feel
medium
like if Bates becomes the center, Morris is making way too much.
way too much, and they're going to drop it. And at guard, um, we need a backup at guard. We talk about guard?
Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry. Torrance and McGovern are both healthy. Torrance coming off his rookie season, he did okay. McGovern coming over from Dallas, he did okay. But if there's an injury there, if Bates is moving to center, who's really your backup guard? So they have to address that.
Mhm.
So that's my priorities on. And then there was a couple of low priorities.
Well, let me talk about guard.
Okay, I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
We hope that Osiris Torrance will only get better. I mentioned earlier there were some problems on the right side of the offensive line in a number of games.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just Brown; it was also sometimes Torrance.
Yeah.
But he's a rookie, and he's getting lots of playing time. So the expectation is he'll be better next year, even better next year, and
Yeah.
that's probably will be the case. But that just to you never know, right? He certainly did enough to prove that he should be in that role for next year or expected to do that role next year. They just shouldn't be out there looking for a replacement. But they do hope, I would imagine, that he, with the off-season conditioning and the mini camps and stuff and a full training, he'll back.
You know what? And with McGovern and with a Torrance there, we did see an improvement in the running game.
Yep.
So I know we had pulling tackles and not pulling guards.
Yeah.
But the tackles did their job,
Mhm.
and we had a much better run game. So they need to improve on their pass protection.
Pass protection, particularly with Torrance there. And then we may find that, like, Torrance did come out of college with a reputation of having great feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he was a second rounder and not first rounder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but with work and practice, he might be able to move and be a pulling guard. That just wasn't, he wasn't ready for that as a rookie. And I think we saw that.
Well, John, not to make this, I'm wondering, like you asked me a question before we came on air, should we make this 2 videos, one offense and one defense? I think maybe we should. So this just doesn't drag on and on.
Okay.
We address the offense.
You had a couple things you wanted to say, and then we'll.
I was just recapping that I had one high priority on the offense, and that was that number 2 receiver or the big play guy.
Okay.
And then there was a number of medium priorities, and they all had to do with the backup.
Yeah. Okay.
Or pressing a guy to be maybe to take his job. But
gotcha.
I thought the offense in general, there's some issues, but the biggest issue was in the receiving.
Yeah, that's the single. I agree. All right. Are you all right? So we're going to go ahead and end this. Thank you, everyone. We will do a priority list for the defense in the very near future. Look for it.
Happy
Go Bills.
happy off season.
Go Bills. Go Bills.